Welcome back to another RPG Maker Unite tutorial. Today we're going to create an event. I'm going to show you around some settings like trigger, priority, then we'll eventually make a move route. With that said, let's get started. Alright, so here we are in the tutorial project. I went ahead and created a couple maps, and I'm just using these sample maps. Basically, RPG Maker has these sample map options where you can create like world maps, just predefined world maps. They've got towns, homes, a church, tavern, some inns, different towns, all this kind of stuff. When you want a particular one, you can just right click and say new map from sample map, and it will pop up right here. Additionally, you can go to menu, new map from sample. The only thing is you just have to know which one you want. You don't get a preview. So I feel like this one is definitely the easier option. But yeah, so that's how I've created these maps real quick. Just in case you didn't know or didn't know that RPG Maker offers this coming from Unity side or something like that. There's a bunch of maps that you can use right away. All right, so let's make our first event. The first thing you do is you go to the event tab right here of the map that you want, and then you can start to create an event. And quite simply, how you create an event is you right click on an area and then you click new. And that's going to highlight the square first off. That's how you know that events are there. So if you see a shaded area, that most likely means there's an event there. And then it's going to give you this new event tab here, which has a EV001, which means event 01. You can come over here and you can name it. Let's just name it NPC. That's what the name is going to be. And then if you come over here, you can see that it renamed to NPC. Now, we do have these things called pages. You can see that we can create new pages. You can also delete or copy this page. We're going to get into pages here in a second. But just note that the page runs these actions that are selected down here. So these actions, go text, let's just say, or choices or things like this, these are going to be ran from this page. So for example, if we had another page, you can see that it is blank with event commands. However, this one has those ones that we just set, right? We'll get more into pages here in a minute. Let me delete these real quick. And now let's go over to kind of what matters with an event like this, specifically an NPC. The first thing that you want is you want to select your image for it. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. For a NPC, you're most likely going to be choosing a character, right? And by character, I mean like one of these characters on your list, which you can find right here under actor, right? So your actors are going to be your characters. You can create a new actor, and then you're going to be able to set it up with what that character is. For instance, right here, we've set up the field character for this girl, or actually this automatically came, this is part of the base assets. It came with this field character. All right, so when we go to set this event as Sharon, it's going to use that field character associated with that character. So that is one way, and probably the way that you're going to do it with a NPC that walks around and stuff like that. Now, you might have just an event where it's just a door. And so in that case, you can select from an image, and then you can see that we can have all of these different kinds of images we can do. Particularly, you can see that this would be handy for a door or a treasure chest or something with one. You wouldn't want to show, because I think if you click on this, it will show, oh, I guess it only shows the middle. Well, let's test this out and make sure. Yeah, so it shows the correct frames, which is really helpful. All right, so that is definitely one way to do it, is by doing that. And you can see that we have a door option, all these different stuff, maybe a candlestick. So you have different options right here through this. The third way is through tiles, which I think is pretty unique to Unite. I don't think the other RPG makers can do this by default, is you can select from a tile. So you can select this little village if you wanted, or you could select from a large part. Now, we haven't got into large parts yet, but there are no large parts in a base project. If you did create the sample project, you'd see a lot of large parts. And so large parts are basically big objects that you can use for tiling, and they all come in one package. So like you can make a whole house, and boom, you could have this right here. So you could use large parts, which is very interesting. All right, so we're definitely going to stick with characters because we know that we're going to be doing walking and things like this. So if we go to playtest this, you can see that she is, and that she is automatically walking. So that's just how it is by default, automatically walking. So if we didn't want her walking while we were doing that, because again, we're setting up an NPC here. If we didn't want her walking, we would scroll down here and we start finding some other options. All right. So these are the autonomous movement options. And so one of them is walk in place, and it's on by default. So if we click off on this, perfect. So now she's just standing there and waiting. So now let's add an action, and let's just do a simple show text. All right, this is one that is very popular. We'll just say, hello, welcome to my house. And we can set a character if we want. So we do know it's Sharon. So it is going to have her face as well as a bust available to show. And we can say that we want to show the name, yes, which it will take from the character. And then we can say show the face. We could show face if we wanted, or we could show picture. So you have to choose one or the other. You can't have both. So let's just show the bust, because I think the bust is new. I think we've always been able to show face, but not necessarily a picture. So this comes with the base Unite. And then you can select your window that you want, and then we can see the window position. So you can go top, bottom, like this. And the cool thing about this is you can now preview. You can just preview it. It's like this, and it will throw it to this preview tab. Then you'll see what's going on here. So here's your bust, Karen, and then hello, welcome to my house. All right. So then if you wanted to go back, you can go back to here, and then you're back into your editing mode. And so, yeah, that's what we want to do. Now I want to show you the different trigger types. Okay, so we've selected the image. We've kind of set it up the way we want, where we don't walk in place or anything. And we'll get to other options as we go. But the one thing that we want to talk about now is the trigger. All right, so if you click on here, we have a few different triggers. We have action button, player touch, event touch, auto run, and parallel process. So let's try with action button first. So what's going to happen is this event will not run until the action is pressed on the event. So you have to be kind of touching it, and it has to be pressed. So if we go and play this, you can see that this event won't do anything until I press space. And then boom, the text is now shown. And then it will just keep repeating that event because we don't move on, kind of thing. So it'll just keep repeating that event if we keep pressing space on it. So the next trigger type is going to be, get back in here, the next trigger type will be player touch or event touch. And I am not very good at the difference between these, but let's just do player touch because we are the player here. I think one is when like the player is touching it, and then the other is when the event's touching it, but could be wrong here. But just to show you what it's like, basically when I go up to the event, I'm not going to press space at all. It will trigger. So, and I have to press up again like I want to walk into it. And that's what triggers it. All right. So then let's go to another trigger type, which will go to auto run. All right. So auto run is going to be ran as soon as the map loads, and it's going to keep repeating, and it's also going to have you not move. So for example, let's just test this with something else. Let's go to a new event. Let's go to event commands here. And let's go to a balloon icon. And then let's show this on the event. Yeah, we could say this event, or we could choose the NPC. This event is the NPC, so it's just easier to do this event. We can preview it if we wanted to see what it looked like. But yeah, so now we're going to preview it on this thing on an auto run. So it's automatically going to start, and it's going to keep looping. And meanwhile, we won't be able to move. All right, so there it goes. It's looping. I forgot to click one option to make it look smoother, but I cannot move right now while it's going. All right, so that's what an auto run is. It's more for like a starting cutscene or a cutscene in general where you want the game to pause because the player and things won't move. All right, so the parallel process is the next one here. And we'll be done with trigger types. And what this is, it's the same as auto run where it is constantly running, but the difference is that you'll be able to walk around. It's parallel. Everything's in parallel, so you can do things at the same time. So we'll go here, and you can see that now that thing is going off, but I can now still walk around. Things like this. So parallel process and auto runs, you definitely want to control. You don't want stuff looping all the time, unless you do, like a timer maybe or something like that. But for definitely just starting out, action events, player touch events are definitely good. So an action event is perfect right here. I want to go up to the NPC. I want to talk to it. I want it to move, set the table maybe, and then we eat. All right, so the last thing to go over is that you can have movement for this event by clicking some of these options. So right now it's just fixed, meaning it's just staying still and it's in a certain direction. The next one you can do is you can have it walking around randomly. And then the other one is you can have it approaching the player, or you can set a custom. So if you set a custom here, you can see that you have this start editing. So if you start to edit here, you can click on sections that you want it to end. So this will be the first route that it takes. This will be the second route that it takes. Let's just say that this is the third, this is the fourth, and then this is the fifth. All right, so we have the 1 and 2 kind of overlapping here. And then we'll just stop this editing right here and we'll preview it. If we click preview, you can see that it's walking, and it's walking pretty slow, but I'll show you why here in just a second. Then it goes over here, and then it comes back, and it should go back to where it started. And then it should loop and do it all over again. Okay, so it didn't because I didn't have this thing repeat actions. So if you did click on this, it would start over again. Now, this other thing here, skip if unable to move, kind of dangerous. You kind of got to know what you're doing, because if you do block it, it will skip the next movements and start going, like, say, downward here. And so it might not make it back to the original spot if you're doing something like that. So this definitely has a use, but it's not for something like this. Now, you did notice that it was moving rather slow. So how do we change that? We can basically make the movement speed, we want that to be normal, unless you wanted it to be faster. But what we want to do is we want to set the frequency of the move, right? So right now it's normal. We want it to be the highest, right? So with the highest selected with a normal speed, we can preview it again. And now it's more free walking, right? And then it should repeat. I'm not sure why, or maybe this is just because of the preview. But yeah, so then if we wanted it to be faster, we could give it faster, and we could preview that, and it's going to be flying. I'd probably make it a little slower, actually. Preview it that way. Yeah. The way it looks like she's just walking around her house and things like that. There is one more big thing I guess we could talk about here, and that is same as character, the priority. So same as character means that this event, the player will not be able to pass through, and other events too. The below characters means that the player will be able to go over them, and and this event will show under them. Above character means that the player will also be able to go through them, but this event will show above them. Now, the only thing to really take into consideration is how these triggers handle with these. So for example, with the action button, you could see that we just had to be next to the event. Well, if this was below or above, you would have to be on top of the event for the action button to actually work. The same for the player touch. You actually won't trigger it until you're on top of the event, rather than if you're just touching it from it being same as character. So you kind of just think of this as general collision as well as viewing. Does it show a below or under the player? Does it stop the player or not stop the player? That's kind of the gist of priority. So yeah, that's basically how you set up an event. Every other option is just kind of, you can kind of play with, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So hopefully this video helped. If you have any questions, you can throw them in the comments below. We'll get them figured out. That said, I'll see you at the next video.